to create coaching awareness. And we have and will continue to make attempts to reach out to those who want a coach to talk to and share. We promise to be coaches who listen empathetically, help one reflect and reach into that power that resides within. I'm sure you'll find the discussion today enlightening and energizing. So without further ado, I'll now hand over to Priya and Lata, who will introduce the participants and start the conversations where we can experience the power of coaching in real life.
Sian, thank you so much. Priya, you want to say something quickly?
No, I was just taking up to say that he should go ahead and give it to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Priya. Prasad, can we request for you to run the first poll?
Can you see the results?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much, Ujjal. So almost 50% of our attendees today are coaches. We have 16% from the L&D-HR space. And we have leaders, 11 plus 8 plus even entrepreneurs. So we are talking about almost 25% who are leaders in different spaces. And we have students and others. Wonderful, welcome. 41 to 55 seems to be the predominant age group. And so wonderful to see Bangaloreans join us in such large numbers. We have Mumbai, Pune, Delhi in equal numbers. Thank you so much. That's a great start. Prasad, are you going to put up the video?
Dazzles, and you look at talent and say, wow, I wish I could be like that. And yet you find that excellence is not about talent alone. In fact, a major part of excellence has nothing to do with talent. And in course of time, once you go beyond a certain level, ability or talent is the most useless virtue to possess. It's what you do with that talent that matters. And that's why he used a word, Mukesh used a word that I love, attitude. Beyond a point, it is attitude that counts for far more than talent. Because talent breeds an ego. And talent never solves problems beyond a point. And I was fascinated by something that Sandy Gordon said when we were doing a program together. Because I had seen a lot of young cricketers, extremely talented, who the moment they faced a roadblock did not know what to do. Because they had never had to struggle to succeed. They always used their talent to succeed. And Vinod Kambli is an example of that. The moment Courtney Walsh bounced him in Bombay, he was 22 years old. Was he? Yeah, he was 22 years old then. In 1994, he was 22 years old. Didn't know what to do, did not play a test match after that. His last test match was when he was 22 years old. Just did not know how to play the bouncing ball because talent had solved everything for him before. In the Australian Army, when they are, and this is something that doesn't come from sport, but it's something a sports scientist told me, that when they're building an elite core team, they look at your career record, your track record, and if you've never failed, they don't pick you. They don't pick you because they say, if this man experiences failure, will he know what to do? They pick people who failed and bounced back. And that is where your attitude comes through. And I mean, let's look at excellence. What is excellence about? It's about being in the top 10% in your profession. I mean, I know I'm talking to people who want to be in the top 1%, but there's a lot of ordinary people around us around. So let's say top 10%. Is talent important when you get to be in the top 10%? I mean, everybody in the top 10% will have the same talent, right? So what's your USP? It's what you do with the talent that counts. And unfortunately in our sport, and I think in India as a nation, we're dazzled by talent a great deal. I have found that beyond a certain time in sport, as indeed in broadcasting, that your work ethic and your attitude counts from far more than talent. I mean, Tendulkar is a prime example. The moment you say Tendulkar, if I asked you to, if you had one of those things that talk show hosts do, I'll give you a word and you give me a connecting word in one word. You say Tendulkar, people say talent, right? He played 55 games as a 14-year-old without a break. 55 days. He'd practice for 2 hours, play a game, practice 2 hours, fall asleep on the dining table. And do that 55 days in a row. That's attitude. You know, we think, and this is something we talk about in our corporate lectures as well, where we advise against talent. When Tendulkar was born, it wasn't that this nurse picked him up and said, "Here, Mrs. Tendulkar, here's 70 hundreds for you." Yeah? It isn't Tendulkar's talent that's produced 70 hundreds. It's his work ethic, it's his attitude, and more than anything else, when you reach the top, it's his passion to perform. And that counts for far more. The attitude and the passion counts for far, 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 far more than ability. Ability opens the first door. It might open the second door. It's not going to open the last door for you. Because the guy who's bowling the ball at you has got equal ability as you. He's not going to run up to bowl and say, "Ooh, sorry, you're a genius. Sorry, I'll give you a simple ball." Which is what India's bowlers did in 1948 when they went to Australia. They were so much in awe that they said, "We are going to bowl to Bradman."
And that really sets the tone for what we're going to do next. Um, we're going to call upon a few leaders who've actually used coaching for their own development. And I'll be calling them one by one. And while I invite you, my request is also for you to really take it forward from where Harsha Bogle spoke about, attitude, pursuing excellence, practice, and accepting failures as part of the growth journey. And we would really like to hear what your growth journey has been and how coaching came up as a very effective intervention. To start with, I'm going to call upon Mr. Harshit Shah. Harshit Shah, welcome. He's MD of Harris Brushes Private Limited.
So, good evening. I take forward from Harsha's video. I fully agree with video. Is attitude which matters the most, and your hard work. And importance of coaching is what is the discussion today. So I will share, as you say, we reach 100 crore plus in last 4 years from a medium-sized company. It's by chance I managed to get a good coach, and then it been very helpful or being a strong pillar in the journey of growth. For a small company or for a startup venture or for even a students, having a good coach is very important. And the awareness is not there at the moment, what I say, but I think one has to realize the importance of coach, which how I understood is like having a good chartered accountant or a good family physicians. A good coach is equally important in your growth journey, especially we are in now VUCA COVID world in next few years, okay, or coming few years. I think a good coach is will be a important uh, the points where everyone has to look at it.
Thank you, Harshit, for sharing how coaching has helped you grow as an entrepreneur. Uh, the next person going to come up on screen for us is another very interesting person. We have been through the last 4 days meeting people from corporates, people who have probably spent a few decades in their professional journey. And here we have a young lady called Dhwani Joisher. Dhwani is a student pursuing her master's in emotional intelligence and life coaching at Mumbai University. And along with her study, she's already specialized in working with children, teenagers, and parents. She also teaches, and she's conducted workshops for children on emotional intelligence. She has volunteered for the Pop-Up Festival and Initiative of 6 Second, an international NGO supporting emotional intelligence in children. And Dhwani, along with some of her colleagues on campus, has set up a coaching firm called Soul, Seed of Unconditional Love. It looks after the coaching and training needs of children, teenagers, and millennials. And her coaching model is love, listen, observe, value, and embrace. Welcome, Dhwani. We're very keen to understand how coaching has helped you grow and develop into this extremely interesting person that you are today.
Thank you, ma'am, and good evening, everyone. So, earlier, like around 3 to 4 years back, I used to be a very shy girl. I I was an introvert, and people used to keep telling me, "Wow, Dhwani, you're such a good listener. I can easily come and talk to you." And people did come and spoke to me about all their issues or whatever is bothering them. And I just kept wondering, okay, I'm listening, but what next? And when I had to select my career, I realized that the only thing that I want to do is help people live a more fulfilled life. But I knew that I'm such a closed person and I don't interact much with people. So if I really want to help someone by talking to them, I will have to open up. And that is when I came across this course, Masters in Emotional Intelligence and Life Coaching at MasterMyLife and Mumbai University. And during the 2 years of this degree, I received a lot of coaching from our faculty, from my colleagues, and I think it has transformed me into a different person. As it was seen in the video by Mr. Harsha, that attitude is everything. I realized that during all the coaching sessions that I do have the potential and I need to have the attitude to take the opportunities that come my way. I need to embrace my potentials and I need to embrace my gift that I have of being empathetic, of understanding people. And coaching has made me a different person altogether. I used to be scared of being a leader because I felt I do not have those qualities. But I ended up being the best team leader during one of the semesters. I have become more extrovert, I have become confident. And the biggest proof for that is that I have started our own venture with my colleagues called Seed of Unconditional Love, which focuses on coaching and training. And I feel that I've finally found my calling thanks to all the coaching I received during my degree and all the training that I got on emotional intelligence. Self awareness is a very important part of emotional intelligence, and I really became self aware. I got to know so many things about me that I wasn't even aware of. And yes, with my initiative, with this venture, I hope that I can help more people. I can help people have this attitude of not giving up, of being resilient and having tolerance, especially in times like these. Right now when everything is so unpredictable and people are so scared of everything, what we really need is that attitude of keep going, that resilience. And I am still talking to people, making them understand this value, that how they can have that never give up attitude right now and keep going. And I'm thankful to coaching that helped me coach other people. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dhwani. Wasn't that wonderful? And another small little interesting tidbit about Dhwani is she's interning in a firm where she is actually doing midlife coaching. Isn't that a great way to go? I'm sure your clients are going to get a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom from you. Thank you so much, Dhwani. Okay. And now we have another. I'm so happy to be introducing another woman leader. And this is Sujana Krishnamurthy. She's the executive director of UTMT Society. UTMT stands for Under the Mango Tree, which promotes beekeeping with indigenous bees to increase agricultural productivity and enhance biodiversity, incomes, and livelihoods of marginal farmers in India. In her 2 decades as a development professional, Sujana has loved working across India, from Himachal to Tamil Nadu. She began her career in labor research with the Center of Education and Communication, New Delhi, worked as a state program leader for Praya in Himachal Pradesh, and for the last 10 years been associated with Under the Mango Tree Society. She has a master's degree from Gokhale Institute of Politics and Human and Economics and an MPhil from JNU. And she says that she juggles work with being a mother to a 7-year-old and enjoys reading about food and travel. Thank you so much, Sujana. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here. And in this section, we really want to hear how coaching has affected you and your growth as an individual and as a leader.
So coaching was something which is completely new to us. I come from the development sector. As Lata's fairly long introduction would have told you. So Under the Mango Tree is a fairly young NGO. For us, coaching actually came about in a chance conversation that we had with another NGO, Jai Vakil Foundation, when we'd gone to meet them for something else. And they mentioned that coaching had really helped, and they put us in touch with the ICF Mumbai chapter. So CN and Lata and Naru, who later became my coach, we had a couple of conversations. For us, we didn't really know what coaching was about. I had read about it as something which corporate leaders used fairly well. So in some sense, as I kept telling them, coaching was a luxury. It's not something that people from the development sector actually used, was where we came from. After a number of conversations with us and with the team, we signed up the entire leadership team of Under the Mango Tree Society for coaching. So the cohort was almost 6 people. My coach was Naru. We had a whole bunch of other excellent coaches. And I'll first talk a little bit about my own coaching journey and talk a little bit about my colleagues and how it helped us as an organization. So some of the, as Naru used to call it, beautiful conversations that we had were around leadership style, person management, performance management, and also as I lead the organization, what are the various bottlenecks in us as an institution and as an organization? Coaching really helped me figure out what my leadership style was, because some of the feedback that I got earlier was I was too nice as a leader. Maybe I needed to be a firmer person. So those conversations actually helped me resolve what is the kind of leadership style that I want for the organization. And considering the fact that we are in the development sector, you talk about diversity. Our organization and our leadership team probably checks all boxes. We come from diverse backgrounds. Many of us have different kinds of issues. Communication is an issue. Communication with a particular set of people is an issue for some other people. So I think the whole coaching process actually helped us deal with a lot of these issues. And at the end of almost a 5-month-long coaching journey, all of us felt a lot of the issues that we faced. We became more productive as a team. We also bonded together much better as a team. And I think each of us was able to address the bottlenecks that we faced, both as individuals and as an organization. We were able to step out of our comfort zones. And I think for us, the icing on the cake was when we won a very prestigious award, the HCL Foundation Award, in February this year. It was something that we really didn't expect to win, because we were the underdogs in this category. And our competitors were very old NGOs who'd been there for almost 20-25 years. And but in some sense, I do think that the coaching journey was what helped us actually reach the pinnacle in some sense in a very short period of time. So it's also opened us up as an organization and as individuals, I think, to coaching, democratization of coaching, which is the topic for the panel discussion today. So I'll talk a little bit more about it when we reach there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sujana, and thank you for bringing in another important word, diversity. And I think we have got a pretty diverse panel here today. Also in terms of the sectors, as you may have seen, the audience may have seen, you're going to meet more people like this. Before we go there, Prasad, can I request you to run another small testimonial video where we have more people telling us how coaching has benefited them?
Sure.
I knew I had blind spots and focus areas, but I just did not address them despite the fact that I knew the impact it had on me as an individual. What coaching does is it forces you to dig deep and find the areas that you need to fix. A good coach can trigger those changes by simply getting you to introspect, identify those areas, and build actions to get you the outcomes that you're looking for. So coaching helped me identify 3 to 4 focus areas, and I put together measurable goals and action plans. And while the changes were initially incremental, it eventually helped me make that shift. So if you are constantly seeking ways to improve yourself, I think coaching is a great investment. It means putting aside time to introspect and think through and address the opportunities that you have. It has a far more lasting impact than, say, training or self-improvement books. Not that those are not impactful, but they offer you direction, while coaching forces you to identify that path and walk down that path till you find your outcomes.
I moved to Mumbai last year and I was going through a lot of challenges and was unable to see the opportunity out of them. And then I realized I could reach out to a friend who's a coach. The beauty of this was that I was unable to see many opportunities, and then in the process I could solve my concerns. This really helped me understand the power of coaching, and it helped me get into solutions and a lot of achievements. I personally feel coaching is very empowering.
I had my first brush with coaching less than a year ago. I was making a career transition at the time, and what I realize now in hindsight is what I needed most back then was to have faith in the process and in myself. With my coach's guidance, I learned to do just that. Learning and figuring out what makes me tick and how to honor it every single day. I highly recommend coaching as a tool for change. Personally, I've always wanted to do a million things to the point of losing sight of what really matters. Coaching gave me clarity on what is most important to me. Today, if I truly appreciate the value of expressing myself authentically and being a good listener, it is because of coaching. I'm sure it will help you through your own self-awareness journey.
So we've really, run through almost 6 testimonials. Time to, and testimonials which have really talked about how coaching has impacted them and different ways in which it has helped them grow. Time for our second poll. Thank you, Jill. I think we've seen across, the sessions that unlocking potential receives the overwhelming response. Unlocking or opening or offering a key to something that one has still not explored. Elevating self-awareness, creating clarity of purpose, motivating and energizing. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks, audience. We're going to go on to the next part, and that's the next part is we're going to bring in more panel members, because that's what this session is really about, getting more and more people, experts, leaders, people from diverse fields to talk to us and share with us what their experiences with coaching has been. Let me start by introducing them one by one before we can start with the panel discussion. May I introduce, first of all, Mr. Alok Sheopurkar. Alok is the Executive Vice President and Head HR at HDFC Asset Management Company Limited.
Hi.
And, hi, Alok. He presently also serves as a member executive committee of NHRD Network. He's a chairman, Apex Advisory Committee. He has various certifications in psychometrics. He has degrees in law and commerce. He's a PCC coach, ICF, and he has continued to contribute on various articles, international and national journals. He's a recipient of various awards like Rashtriya Sanman Award, Most Influential HR Leader in Asia, IAS Award for Creative HR Strategy, so on and so forth. Next with us is, of course, Sujana. Sujana is going to continue to be with us on the panel. We have Mr. Anirudh Gupta. He is a learning and development consultant and OD practitioner. He has designed and delivered a cross-section of facilitative programs across diverse sections of learners in various geographies over the last 20 years.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And pleasure to be here in this forum. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anirudh, for being here. Next, may I welcome Hemant Lawangmare. Hemant Lawangmare is the founder of MasterMyLife EQ Education. Sorry, he runs a program, a master's program at the Mumbai University. He is himself an international life coach, emotional intelligence expert, and a behavioral intelligence trainer. Last but not the least, let me introduce Bosco Dinello. Bosco's journey, if I may start with, spans 25 years of leadership experience in marketing, business strategy, program design and implementation, training and transition coaching. And he studied coaching psychology, the science of coaching psychology at Harvard University. He holds a coaching accreditation from the ICF with over 3,000 hours of coaching. He's a PCC. 10 years ago, he established Conscious Development. Conscious Development is an organization enabling individuals to bridge the gap between who they are and who they can be, where they run various programs using positive psychology and strength-based lens to build conscious leaders and organization culture. So, what we're going to really have here, just for the benefit of the audience and the panelists, we're really going to have a small panel discussion, which will be followed by a Q&A, which is bases the questions from the audience. Participants, audience, request you to use the Q&A box to continue posting your questions to this panel. And I'm sure you're going to get your answers here. Yeah. So let me start. And let me start by posing this question. Many of you have spent, more than a decade already pursuing coaching as a profession in your organizations, your own, or with the client. Bosco, can I start with you? What brings a strong conviction to what you do?
When I started conscious development 10 years ago, the reason for starting this organization was that I had, a long corporate journey behind me, and my life had taken, several twists and turns which were unexpected. And through that, I found myself dealing with the kind of things that I'd never envisaged that I was dealing. And the only thing that kept me going was, besides prayer, was also resilience and the desire to see things differently, the desire to reframe life, reframe perspectives. And as time passed, what I saw was that, I could never be the same again. But what I wanted to do was to use the learnings of my journey in service of others. Because I could see that there were many people around me who were going through something similar. But, it's like you're in a boat on the ocean and you're being, you're kind of trying to navigate towards the shoreline. So I said, how can I use my experiences, my learnings, my journey, my growth in service of others? And that's where I saw value in what I had done. And that's what I bring to, the work that I do. So in effect, it's about, if life has handed people lemons, how can they make lemon iced tea out of it? How can they make a lemon margarita out of it? How can they see things differently so that they can grow through whatever journey they're going through, including COVID-19? So that's the inspiration for my work.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, when life gives you lemons, how do you make it to lemonade? I'm going
10 to 12 months of coaching, wherein I used to meet my coach once a 15 days. And that particular journey of a year transformed me completely. So from a head of department, within the next 4 years, I become a very uh, senior person in a global organization. So that hit me, means that particular lesson, that realization, that experience of self transformation through emotional intelligence coaching hit me a lot. And then I become a coach from ICF, and then I did many other programs like NLP, psychology, and DISC, behavioral intelligence. And then uh, I started my own coaching organization, You, Me, and Life. So while doing it, one of my close friend asked me that, Hemant, if the coaching can be taken to the education sector, then the spread of the coaching will be very high. So with that particular insight, I approached University of the Mumbai, and they gladly accepted the proposal of launching a master degree in emotional intelligence and life coaching. And from there, the journey started of infusing emotional intelligence and life coaching into Indian education system. So the seed was sowed by my previous organization where I was working. And because of that coaching experience and the benefit what I experienced, I could venture into the emotional intelligence and life coaching education. Thank you, Lata.
I want to bring in Alok here. Alok, you are associated with a lot of education institutes, and I also heard you speak about it when we connected some days back about how you are bringing in coaching as an intervention for youth. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Hi, good evening, everyone. One of the big challenge today is youth is not very clear what kind of career paths they have to take. Now, the challenge is guest faculties come to institutes, they teach and they go away. And we would recall our days of guest faculty, hardly any guest faculty or their wisdom we would recall. What we would probably recall is what our professors have taught and how they have rubbed their influence on us. So my idea through being part of various boards is how can we bring structural influence in the teachers so that they bring the right influence over the students. That is far more lasting rather than I directly intervening or doing a session for students. Because when students hear a guest faculty, their first objective is that would it convert into a job opportunity or would it bring a differential ability in them? So this is how I have used my coaching insights or reflections to bring differential approach for the teachers themselves. And that's where I think the change in the curriculum or the more participation and listening to students, bringing a permanent shift and slowly introduce some of the coaching competencies in the class makes them a better listener, because students are in a very hurry or rush to respond to the interview questions even before allowing a panelist to complete the interview. So I think these are some of the ways where coaching has helped me to influence the academic boards more than the directly students, because that's where I realize brings a lasting impact on the academia.
Thanks, Alok. Anirudh, the reason I'm turning to you is like Alok said about how coaching is making a difference to the way teachers teach in their classrooms and the way they relate to their students. You are associated with L&D in the corporate world. Talk to us about what are your experiences with being able to bring a shift in culture, whether at leadership or down the line through the coaching intervention.
So thank you very much, and namaskar everybody for this inviting me for this in this forum. So I currently take care of learning and development and OD for Pfizer India, and coaching is one of the initiatives that we have commenced. I think a couple of years back, around 2017-18, we started that. So it's still a journey which is on. So I really cannot say whether the fruits are coming up, but definitely the shift is occurring. So when we are talking about this cultural shift, and let me bring some very practical perspective. A while ago, the word VUCA was used, and I think that today we are actually living a VUCA world. Earlier, we were basically talking about it in a very intellectual manner, but today we are actually experiencing it. I'm quite sure none of you planned this event in this manner, but the world has shifted you or pushed you to do this. And I think in business also the same thing occurs with the dynamics of competition, products, pricing, team members, so many issues that emerge. The old school of management is no more workable. Even if you put processes and policies and SOPs, they don't tend to give you the desired result. So when I started, so I come from clinical psychology, and I did my ACC around 9-10 years back. And coaching is probably for me the only solution for most of these things, because it transfers the power onto the coachee, in this case the client, right? The topic is very interesting what you presented, and at Pfizer we have ensured that coaching begins at a self state first. So can individuals themselves start self-coaching, start building that emotional intelligence? Then do first line managers start talking that coaching language, the power of listening, power of empathizing, understanding the concept of being vulnerable as managers, which they are experiencing day in and day out. So this journey is continuing on, and we have started both from a top to down level and also a down to up level, so that at each level, everybody experiences to some extent the power of coaching, the benefit that it brings. And that is how the journey is on. We are getting very good traction. That's what I would call. People are converting slowly and steadily. There are still some thoughts which are kind of limiting thoughts, but I think with time, they would slowly fizzle out. So that's my perspective. Over to you, Lata.
Wonderful. Alok, I want to talk about those limiting thoughts, and I will come to you in a little while. Sujana, I just want to get you in. When you started taking the coaching intervention, you also parallelly introduced it for some of your team members. What do you see is the impact when not just the senior leadership is taking up the coaching process, it's parallelly being introduced at a different level, maybe the second and third level of leadership? What is the impact that you see in the organization?
At one level, it shows the seriousness of the organization to engage. Besides me, the state team leaders, as well as people who'd been in some critical functions. So around 5 of us actually took up coaching. So at some level, it shows that the organization is open to new thoughts, is willing to deal with issues that people might have in a very professional way, but in a way which is in our case, it was a very unconventional way, because ideally you thought that someone from the not-for-profit sector would probably be mentored by somebody else who's very senior in the not-for-profit sector. So it kind of shows the willingness to look outside. And when all of us step back and look at it, we realized that this was actually opened up an entire window, because like I mentioned earlier, taking the time off to step back and look within yourself and to see what could be, like someone mentioned earlier, the potential is within you. So to be able to actually have someone talk you through the process, to sit with you, because unfortunately for a small organization like ours, which is also resource trapped, which is the case with most organizations in the not-for-profit sector, it's actually a luxury to be able to not talk work, but talk work in a way which looks at your personal development, organizational development. So that it really shows at one level the willingness of the organization to look deep within. It shows the fact that the entire leadership team is taking this forward, has actually kind of opened up minds, I would say, because now the first cohort in the organization has finished coaching, has had some very good experiences. Now the second cohort, which is the second level of leadership, is now getting ready for coaching. I think at one level, this has been completely new to us, and it has also helped us actually probably take the message to other people in the not-for-profit world to say that, hey, this is probably something that you should be looking at. And we look at conventional ways of addressing issues, even if it is something like engagement with the community, which is what all of us do at various levels. But something like the way you engage or the way you communicate, you can have a completely new perspective to it. So those are the kind of insights that coaching has brought to us in a very nice way. And I think all of us really valued our coaching journeys tremendously. And it's created a lot of enthusiasm in the organization for the second level to also take it up in the next couple of months.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Sujana. Bosco, I want to bring you in here. In organizations, it's typically called a tripartite arrangement, right? There's an organization sponsor, there's the coachee, there's a coach. How does one, what are some, good practices that coaches can look at in order to, kind of reduce the resistance that comes with there being other people involved in that decision and choice of being a coach or being coached?
First and foremost, Lata, I think it's important for the coachees to understand what is it that they're going to undergo? What is the process, and what's the thinking? What's the reasoning behind the process? In most organizations, people have this thing that, there's the organizational agenda. And therefore, are we part of the organization agenda? Which is true. I mean, the organization wants its people to grow because that's how everyone will grow. It's a win-win. But is it part of my growth? Is it part of, is it because that I'm lacking in something? Is it because I need to develop in some areas? What's the real reason for this? So this reassurance is very important. In a sense, it's creating psychological safety for somebody to enter into an area that is unknown to them. Because let's remember that we are asking, one of the asks of the coaching journey is for the coachee to be completely open and vulnerable. And you can't be vulnerable if you don't feel safe. So understanding that is the first. The second is confidentiality. And I've seen that that's very fundamental to the process. Because if you're going to let your guard down and speak your mind and your heart to someone who's a stranger and talk about stuff that you don't even discuss with your family, again, you want to be sure that you are completely safe. So confidentiality is, extremely important to the process. And third, I see is that when there is a sponsor involved, it's not just from a supervisory role of saying, okay, I'm just going to watch what's going on, and then I'm going to evaluate you a few months down the line and then see what progress you made. But does the sponsor have skin in the game? Is the sponsor really interested in the coach's development for their own development, not just because they see them as fulfilling a role towards the organization's objectives? So people want to know that they're important to their leaders. They're important as people, that they count for something. And they're not just, sort of tools in a larger picture. And fourth is that, unfortunately, I've seen coaching processes go haywire and somewhere get short-circuited along the way, is that when the organization doesn't understand what coaching is about, it's happened, and it does happen, that suddenly they pull the plug because they say, oh, this is all personal. It is, how is it helping the organization? What they have to understand is there's nothing like personal and professional. These are sort of mental constructs with our left brain is telling us that there is a professional side and a personal life. It's all personal. What part of you do you leave behind at home when you come to work? And what part of you do you not take back home when you go to work? It's all personal. So the sponsor must also appreciate that when a coachee is able to bring up a personal challenge with them, it is going to show up in their work. It is going to show up in their performance. It is going to show up in how they relate to people. It is going to show up in how they deal with challenges. It is going to show up in how they look at a problem. What are the patterns that are recurring? So there is no bifurcation between personal and professional. So that is a hang up that we have to sort of work towards getting over consciously as coaches, and in a sense educate our clients at times so that they understand that, and then everybody enters into the journey with the same kind of understanding. Everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And here I want to bring in Alok here. Alok, you working with teachers and to help them, enable them to be better students. When we look at we're not even looking at millennials, we're looking at the Generation Z. What are some key factors for coaches who are interested in coaching the student community? And this generation, what are some of the areas that you see are critical and which can make a difference to the to the impact of coaching?
Okay, one or two, one my experiences I would share is, or rather my observation about young generation is, they are very, very honest, very upfront, very candid, open to experimentation, and open to feedback. And the good part is they have very less or no baggage. So my belief is to bring a shift in them is relatively easy because they are far more committed and they take you very seriously. The challenge there is they don't automatically accept you because you have gray hairs. Today, if my boss tells me, Alok, here is your coach, I am 50% sold. That if boss has done, it is for my good, you know. But that is not there. You will have to break the ice first. Once you have broken, and if there is a faith built, then I think the journey is quite smoother. So this is my experience. I don't know whether I've answered you, Lata.
Sure, absolutely, Alok. What you're saying, one is of course that they have their own confidence and they know what they want. That's what I'm picking up. Hemant, I'm also going to go to you as someone who is in this, who is also with the education sector. What are the challenges that as coaches we need to be looking at when we're dealing with this generation?
Yeah, so especially with this generation, since I have a personal experience with my students, so there are two areas. The number one area is actually relationships. This particular generation has a few say, I can say, the concerns or the opportunities related to the relationship management, and this happens because of excessive information or the excessive freedom. So there is one pocket there, and another very important pocket is related to the career aspiration in the first place, not career management, because they are yet to start their career aspirations. Means many times, again, due to excess information and attractions, they are aspiring for some XYZ career which may not be aligned with their own value systems and strengths. So a coach is in a much better position to realize them, that what is their value system, what is the purpose they are thinking as of now, and whether that aspiration is aligned with their SWOT analysis and the value system, and can add a great value to their future career. So the relationship management and the career aspiration management are the two areas what this particular generation needs, and any coach, any wise coach can add a great value there.
Okay, wonderful. Anirudh, with when we talk of individual aspirations, post COVID things are really going to be different. There's a lot of churn happening in organizations with people with their careers. Where do you see coaching going to be required? How are you going to really recommend this, and what are the areas you're going to be recommending this for your organizations? And generally, what are those one or two areas of impact that you want to see?
That's a very tough question, Lata, because for dehydration, the best cure is water. So therefore, for change, the best remedy is coaching. We don't have any other option available, at least not in from the world of behavioral sciences. I'm not sure whether there is any other tool that is currently a methodology which is available with us. Now, within the macro world of coaching, there could be more sub-elements, and the best thing then I can share is from a context perspective. And Bosco said a very nice word: when organizations tend to differentiate between the whole person, they say, okay, this is your professional being and this is your personal being. I think the challenge starts there within an organization first, because that's a conflict generating point. And something which I think Pfizer has done very beautifully, and it's not that we have done it, this is the global framework. We ask every individual to bring their whole leadership to work. You can come to your work with your personal issues that you have, and we are there as a collective to help and support and guide you on that. We might not be able to provide you with the best solutions. And even in this entire COVID period, that's what we have been doing, because we are not able to make due visits to our medical professionals, to the institutions and hospitals and so on and so forth. Every day, we have with our frontline, first line, second line managers, business heads, we spend roughly an hour, hour and a half just around the topic of coaching. So we have created small batches. Every day we spend, we ask what you're doing, how you're doing, what is happening. We are creating a scenario where they are now more focusing on the present, because that's what you have. What has happened, we are not sure would reoccur in the future. And future is anybody's guess. I think my guess would be as good as yours, or yours would be as good as mine. So we have no clue about the future, how it would unravel. And I think that is where people have now really been able to see it and internalize it, and at least are able to kind of connect with the concept of coaching as such. It's still not the way as one would love it. It still becomes a review discussion from time to time. So yes, that tends to happen. I hope that gives you some answer to your question.
Yes, Anirudh, thanks. Thank you. And it's great to hear that, there are groups getting together and there is
Effort already happening in terms of saying how do we address this. Yeah. Bosco, as coaches, we think that there is a lot of work to do as coaches in this post-COVID era. At the same time, organizations are going to be, going through the churn, businesses are being impacted, and there are going to be questions asked, is this the right investment for me at this point in time? How do we as coaches, how do leaders of organizations who may be watching this, how can we address this? What are the things to say, to look at, and really the perspective to adapt?
That's a beautiful question, Lata, and a very, very pertinent question. And here's a few things that I've been thinking about. One is that COVID-19 to me is a master coach. It's forced us to relook at how we think about life, how we think about challenges, how we think about tomorrow, how we think about who we are. It has forced transactional leaders to become more relational. I've seen organizations, clients of mine, where leaders are highly transactional, goal-oriented. The need of the hour is to bring solace to people, to give hope, to hold their hand, to bring in empathy, to bring in compassion, those neglected parts of us that need attention. And that's what coaching does, right? It asks you the difficult questions. What is missing? What could benefit the system? So COVID is making us think of those answers. It's doing it in a kind of a brutal way. But that's what we have at the moment, and that's what it's forcing us to relook at. It's also forcing us to bring in a systemic perspective. There's a beautiful saying by Peter Hawkins, and he says that every organization is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. And somewhere we've forgotten that. We've forgotten in our drive for goals and results and material progress and profits, we've forgotten about the stakeholder called the larger system, the environment. And that has come to bite us. So when when we look at coaching now, I think coaching has to up its game, and up its game to start every organizational leader to start thinking from a systemic perspective. And from a systemic perspective, it simply means it's not only about you and your individual goals and your team goals, but also look at the larger system and say whose voice is not being heard, which is that stakeholder who needs to be in that room, whose views we need to bring in. Otherwise, it'll be like the 13th fairy, you know, the story of the Grimm brothers. The 13th fairy is the one who was not invited to the birth of the child, but she turned up anyway, and she cursed the child and left. So all the good work of the 12 fairies can be undone by the 13th fairy. And that 13th fairy is embodied by COVID-19. It's the largest system, it's the environment. So I think this is a beautiful time for coaching because people are forced to relook at how they're showing up as leaders. It's forcing them to use things like emotional intelligence and empathy. It's forcing organizations to think of a bigger picture. And if you look at it, you know, organizations say that people are our best asset, but that's not strictly true, because our best people are our best asset. And at best, those best people form about 20% of the organization if you look at the Pareto principle. How do you bump up that 20% to more? And coaching is one way to do it. Because what you are doing through coaching is building development into the fabric of the organization, into the everyday experience of people working with their leaders. So it's a huge opportunity for coaching. And I think as coaches and as coaching organizations, we should grab this opportunity to, you know, bring it into the mind space of our clients and not stay away from it.
Yeah. One of the questions being asked also, which is very coach, specific, is in these times, therefore, pricing of services. Is that something that coaches will need to look into in order to get their entry into organizations? Will they have to price differently? Will they have to offer it in a different, different kinds of packages? Is there something that you can share in terms of your thoughts?
Sure. I think, if the question is, will a reduced price lead to greater access and democratization of coaching? I would ask that question differently, because I'm not sure if reducing prices will increase usage of coaching. I think it's putting the cart before the horse. People have to see value. Organizations have to see value in coaching. If you look at a parallel, even people who can't afford it send their children to tuitions and coaching classes. Why do they do that? Because they see value in it. The question to see is, what is the value that we should be asking ourselves as coaches? This question. What is the value that our clients are looking for, which we can deliver and for which they're willing to pay? Then comes the question of, how do we make it accessible to all? Because coaching there's a paradox, right? How do we provide quality at scale? One of the reasons coaching is not, that limits the growth of coaching is that it's an expensive process. It's an expensive one-to-one process. And yet it is extremely effective when rightly, done in the right manner. How do we scale this? Its price is not necessarily, the only way to look at it. There are other formats of coaching which organizations could experiment with: systemic coaching, team coaching, etc., where you're getting the entire system to start thinking differently.
Yeah.
It has to be a win-win. A coach can't feel that I'm not going to be remunerated. I'm not going to be able to make a good living while I am giving off my time and effort. It has to be a win.
Absolutely.
I hope this answers your question.
Yes. Thank you. Sujana, I just want to get you in here, and then we'll have some questions. Bosco spoke about the stakeholder, the 13th fairy. Your NGO is really doing that in terms of reaching out to communities and creating, options for, creating a livelihood. Where do you see, when you take up the next cohort of coaches, what is it that you're really going to focus on in terms of skills that will help your team deliver to the stakeholders?
I think COVID-19 has also affected the not-for-profit sector, just like how it has affected other sectors also. So we are also re-engineering processes. A large part of our work so far has always been with the community in terms of, large meetings, trainings, awareness sessions. So how do you do it in these days of physical distancing? That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is that the donor funds are, there is going to be a crunch, and funds are reducing. So just to, while at the same time, the whole organization needs to be a lot more empathetic, starting from the leadership onwards. So this is where I think where Bosco said earlier, actually just that makes sense. I feel this is the time for quote a whole because there is the call is much larger. But in terms of so it is a stressful time for all. The second cohort of people from our organization will probably need to deal with a lot of these issues, and that is where I think that maybe coaching would probably add a lot more value to their work, because these are such stressful times in which every sector is operating. There is your own personal comfort, which is greatly affected. Plus, there's a whole lot of discomfort in almost every sector. So these are troubling times, but yes, a master coach for all is probably, like Bosco again said, this could well just re-engineer the way we look at things. And this is where I feel that coaching probably has a very large role to play.
Okay, thank you. I think we, in the interest of time, Puneet, do you want to get in some of the questions that have also come in from the audience?
Oh, yes, Lata. One of the biggest challenges of executive coaching is not in the practice itself, but for senior leaders and CEOs to see value in it. Many have the frame of mind that since they are successful right now, they do not need coaching.
In organizations that I've seen coaching work beautifully, the best way to get it started is for the CEO to be coached. Because once a CEO experiences the power of coaching, there will be no questions about does it work or not. Because the question always revolves around what's the ROI? What are we going to get out of it? Is it really going to get, is it really going to benefit people? But if you've experienced the process yourself and you've seen how it turns you inside out and how it opens up your mind, that question is answered. The second thing is to get them to see that one of the tools that we use in our coaching is the polarity lens. And the polarity lens, one of the principles of it is that any strength that you use or any value that you over leverage, any objective that you overemphasize, over time will become your weakness. So what is working for you today, because you will pursue it doggedly and focus on it, you will over time start experiencing the downsides of it. If you see it as a, as a single strength, if you pursue it as a single strength. So what is working for you today is not necessarily going to work for you 2 years, 3 years down the line. In fact, that might just become your downside. And if you look at it from a leadership style perspective, a leader who is very authoritarian and very directive, for example, it will work for that leader up to a point in time. But beyond the point, that leader is going to experience the downsides of it, which is attrition, which is people not showing up, which is lack of innovation, etc. So that very strength, what is working for that leader today, over time is going to become that leader's downfall. So helping them see this perspective is also extremely important.
Sure, Bosco. Thanks for your perspective. I move on to the next question, which I'd like to direct to Hemant. Is coaching of students being done in a group or on an individual basis?
Yes. So first I will start with a methodology of a blended method of coaching, wherein one has to blend the individual coaching with the group coaching. And this is especially true in case of the student community, as well as it is especially true post COVID-19 scenario, where many SMEs are going to face a lot of challenges. And since there was another question that whether they are in a position to pay or whether they recognize the potential of the coaching, so we have to make them affordable with a hybrid method of a blended learning. What we are doing in our education system from a campus based learning, now we are moving to a blended learning during COVID as well as post COVID. So the student community is a fit for a blended method of a coaching, because there are 80% of the goals or issues which will be common because of their same age group and the same environment, and there will be 20% of the things which will be individualistic. So few sessions can be individual and maximum sessions can be a group. And as I have already stated in my earlier response, relationship management and career aspirations management are the two vital aspects where coach can add value as far as student coaching is concerned. And MasterMyLife is providing a platform to the coaches to come to the University of the Mumbai and add value into the lives of the students. Thank you.
Thanks, Hemant. That was very lucid. Are there any observations if coaching outcomes sometimes does not match the objective of the client, despite having a very experienced coach? I'd probably want Alok to answer this.
See, as it has been deliberated here, that the basic or fundamental objective of coaching is the wholesome development. And the people who are involved in coaching should not take it as a allopathy treatment where you inject and the fever will go. They are as long as you achieve the objective of the human development or leaders development, then the question doesn't arise. It doesn't absolve coaches or their quality of coaching not being up to the mark. I'm assuming right now that the coaching quality and the coaches' conversations are in line with the laid down standards or the basic levels. The point here is, my observation is many of the time organizations also hire coaches to treat a specific phenomena or a problem. So we have, coaching is a broad-based, process. It is not a very pinpointed. It doesn't guarantee success, but certainly it brings a person to far more receptive to the new role or new dilemma or new shifts. So if in spite of applying all those principles, if there's an issue on coaching quality, obviously you would either change the coach or bring a new set of intervention. And sometimes it is not the coaching required intervention. It could be skill-based intervention. It could be something which requires a different approach to the problem or a phenomena. And coaching may not be the right tool, and then it may lead to this. I believe that if you have a right coach and the person is coach ready, I really don't see a chance of this going dramatically wrong on this.
Very well put, Alok. Thank you for that. I have a question for Dhwani. How are Gen Z looking at coaching? Is coaching only for middle-aged people? So I think Dhwani would enjoy answering this, and if Hemant wants to add on that.
Yes, so coaching is not just for the middle-aged people. As I'm seeing around me right now, people of my age, they are seeking coaching because they're realizing that they have certain behaviors or self-doubts or limiting thoughts that they could change and become a better person, and gain emotional skills that will help them become a better person, that will help them professionally. Also, teenagers are seeking coaching a lot because I'm working with them currently. So they're finding it quite difficult to find themselves right now, like their place in the world, and dealing with peer pressure, body shaming, academics, and maybe the communication and age gap between the parents. So they are looking for someone with whom they can talk and who will listen to them without any judgments, accept them, and not preach anything to them. because generally teenagers receive a lot of preaching from their parents or other family members or teachers. They're looking for someone as a friend who can tell them where they're going wrong and help them become a better person and achieve whatever goals they're looking for. So yes, Gen Z is looking for coaching, and yes.
Yeah,
Very well said.
yeah, just I want to add one different perspective to this scenario of young people seeking coaching. In my opinion, if today I need a coach, because I believe that everyone needs a coach, I will surely consider getting coaching from a person like Dhwani. The reason that they can bring a totally different innovative perspective which a senior coach might not bring to the table. So in my opinion, in future, organizations are today organizations are considering reverse mentoring. That is, youngsters are teaching to senior people on some digital skills. In my opinion, coaching is a non-judgmental process which is highly suitable for a young coach doing a coaching of a senior person and bringing totally different perspective, which during and post COVID is extremely necessary, that each and every organization is looking for disruptive innovation. Thank you.
Thanks, Hemant, for that very interesting perspective there. And we couldn't agree more that coaching is for everyone. On that note, I will hand over back to Lata.
I hope as an audience, this has been an opportunity for you to listen to coaches and leaders from different sectors. And as you have seen, different age groups. For people, like, once again, for people who are already practicing or people who are considering getting into coaching or getting coached, I hope this has resolved some of your questions and assumptions. Yeah. Thank you. And just to, as a closing, CN, can I request you to do the closing and thanks to the panelists, please?
Thank you so much, Lata. It's been a fascinating experience. 1.5 hours just flew by. There was so much talk about, but it all started with the way Sujana talked about coaching when she said, you know what, coaching is nothing but a beautiful conversation. What a beautiful conversation we had over the past hour and a half, really. Uh, I'm not going to really try to summarize or put it on because there's so much to talk about. We can go on and on and on and on. But here are a few thoughts that I thought I would like to share from my point of view. The first one was, I'll start with what Dhwani said and the question she addressed. Coaching is for middle-aged persons. Traditional India always looked for a guru when the person was past his prime, when he was looking for, achieving his potential. And today, as coaches, we assume that garb in some way. So it is not when anybody at any stage of life when we are looking for potential, that's where we have to go. And then we talked about COVID. I love that comment that Bosco made. COVID is the greatest coach of all that has hit us. And it is so true. The world is a VUCA world, but you know what? For us, VUCA has shifted. It no longer means volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. What VUCA really tells us today is that we need to have vision. We need to have understanding. We need to have clarity. We need to have agility. And this is not something that comes naturally to us. Change is something we all resist. We want to be in our safe spots. And as coaches, we are trained in our competencies to be able to bring about these change in very subtle and very transformative ways. So I think that is something that we really, really need to. Just concluding, I was there at the APAC conference last year when David Goldsmith was there and we were having a conversation. And he asked a question. And he said, you know, guys, I always ask people, when Lehman Brothers was happening, where were we as coaches? Today, it is so easy for us to come up and say that we have not been systemic in our thinking. We have not embraced the whole wide world. Nature has hit back at us. Great. But COVID is the great learner. I think we have a phenomenal opportunity as coaches to disrupt ourselves and to help the generations ahead really experience the power of coaching. And I think that is what all this conversation and all that we are doing with ICW is all about. Thank you so much for being such phenomenal participants and a lovely audience. And I would be failing in my duty if I did not personally thank all our volunteers and all people who worked behind the scenes and during the session to make this a success. Thank you all, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cian. Thank you so much. Request everyone to respond to the poll that Ujjal is going to put up. As Cian has thanked the volunteers, I'm just going to take a few names. Ujjal, who has been like a mover and shaker of the event. Priya Sheikh, Puneet Mehrotra, Prasad Pallav, Parinita Mehra. I hope I'm not missing out anyone. Meghna Srivastav.
Neha was there.
Neha Jalan.
Anita, Puneet, Prasad.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, panelists, from my side too.